everybody, Aaron Savage with Town Square Media. I'm here with Paul Grand, and we're here to talk about the pros and cons of the Bell County Comic-Con. We both made it out for the whole weekend, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of stuff we really loved, and some stuff that maybe we'd like to see next year improved upon a bit. But for a first-year con, especially here in Bell County, this was huge. The turnout was far bigger than I think anybody, even the organizers, expected. That led to both good things and bad things, and we'll get into that. So Paul, one of the early things that we kind of discussed as far as a pro was that they had a DJ there.
Yes.
And
very good at directing the crowd. It was a very big crowd too, so it's good that you had somebody there help pointing you along the way.
He was in sort of that, I don't know what to call it, maybe like a crow's nest or something up in these stands.
Yeah, above where the celebrities were, yes. Yeah,
and he could kind of see everything that was going on the floor. Did a very good job of mixing the music and kind of naturally directing people, saying, hey, coming up at 2:30, we've got this panel, or come over to this side of the floor to see this celebrity. Ernie Reyes Jr. is doing a photo op. Speaking of Ernie, we'll get into it with the guests, but I finally got the Ernie Reyes Jr. autograph I've been waiting to get since I was a little kid, and I wanted to be Keno when I grew up, so that was really great of him to come out. And that kind of leads me to our next pro, which was the guests. I mean, what do you think of the quality of the guests this year?
The quality of the guests were very good. For a first year con, I wasn't expecting a lot of stuff that was there. It was much more than I anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, we had some people. I mean, Kevin Eastman, obviously a legend to Ninja Turtles fans, and Sam J. Jones, who I got to take a photo with Flash Gordon. That's pretty great. Yeah, a little Flash photography. Bad joke, sorry. And of course, Ernie Reyes Jr., who I've been wanting to meet since I was just a teeny kid. So that was really cool. In fact, he had some health issues, but he still made it out, and he talked about that during his panel. If you made it to his panel and Sam's panel, both fantastic panels. The fact that they took the time to come to Bell County and talk to us fans here in Belton, Texas and the surrounding area, that was really cool. A friend of mine is a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, and he got to meet Mike McFarlane, which was cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, get his autograph.
I didn't know he was out there.
Yeah, he was out there. He was kind of over to, if you were facing Flash Gordon, he was a little to the right. A really nice guy, really funny. He was personalizing all of the... he would ask you when he went to get his autograph, what would you like me to write? I'll write anything at all. My friend was like, I don't know, boobs? And he wrote boobs. And it's like, you just think of some immature response you'd think he would never go for, and he would do it. So that was really cool. I want to say, too, that this was a very inclusive con. I felt very cosplay friendly, family friendly. It wasn't anything where anybody, I think, felt excluded. What did you...
No. I agree with that. Cosplayers, huge. I think cosplayers had a good role in during the con. Family, definitely. It was a great place to make memories, great place to go out with your friends, with your family, enjoy yourself, and enjoy those 2 days. And a great place to get stuff that you can keep back from memories, like the art and the merchandise.
Yeah, I thought it was cool to have so many artists there in addition to just straight up merchandise. You had people who are either noted artists, you know, you had comic book artists there, and you had people who were aspiring professional artists, people with online comics and galleries who were there, and you could buy and support their work, which was really cool, and that's kind of what this is all about.
Yeah, and then you also had the sword maker, you had shirts, you had toys, saw the YouTubers. I remember there was one person, they made a Batman, like a Gotham City version, but here down in Temple, which was very nice.
Oh, cool.
Did you ever see that one?
I missed that one. That sounds cool.
Yeah, some of those YouTubers were very interesting. So it was great having such a good variety of merchandise, not just art.
Yeah, so that'd be another pro, is that there was a lot of merch across the board. Fans of comics, movies, TV shows, video games.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of sales for those vendors. Definitely probably going to see another con next year with the turnout that we had this year. Yeah,
I think the fact that this was so well organized for a first year con. If you talk to, I gotta put a shout out to Johnny. If I get your last name wrong, Johnny, I apologize. Johnny Hong, Temple Boy. Family, you know, is associated with Dynasty Chinese Restaurant just up the street from us, and he organized an extraordinary event here. I mean, obviously there were people around him who helped, and there were plenty of volunteers out at the con itself. But he was kind of the heart of everything, and I ran into him a couple of times out there, and he just looked a little overwhelmed, you know, but he was out there working and making sure that this was a quality event for everybody. So thank you so much, Johnny, for the organization on this and putting this together so we can all go out and have a great time. And another pro, I'd say, is the food trucks. It was cool to have the food trucks.
The food trucks were quite nice, and I guess the only other thing I would have to add there on the pros other than those food trucks, and you know, we can actually get back to that one, but the food trucks, well, I would have to say were also a slight con that we can get into later with the heat. Having those food trucks out there with those lines, it felt better if we had the food indoors.
Yeah, it's funny. There probably is a way to get that inside, and that kind of segues, I think, pretty well into the cons. And I think one of the ones that you and I talked about early on was the need for kind of more space, more maybe separation between certain things.
Separation between those celebrities and the vendors, so that way people can find those celebrities better.
Yeah, I would say, and this ties into another con too with the crowd control and crowd direction issues that I kind of saw. Of course, there were volunteers out there doing their best to get people to the lines they needed to be in and whatnot. But if you were there pretty early Saturday, you could testify to this. Things got a little crazy on the floor because you had the vendors and then you had the celebs as you were going in the entrance over to the right, all kind of, I wouldn't say mushed together. There was a clear distinction between where the merchants were and where the celebs were, but it wasn't always clear where the lines were beginning and ending for certain things. I got in line first day to try to meet Kevin Eastman, and I found out maybe 20 minutes into being in the line that I had been in the line for like a merchant or another celeb, and I'm like, oh, whoa, wow, and I would have to go to another line, and that got a little nuts. And of course the lines outside were insane. Wow. I mean, they were out the gates into the highway.
I wasn't there on first thing Saturday morning, but that's what I heard as well. All the way out the expo center down the road. Yeah,
it was out into the road, and I think there were a lot of people who were standing in line who didn't need to be standing in line. They could have come to the will call, or they could have come somewhere, but there wasn't really communication. There wasn't anybody saying, hey, you know, directing those people. And again, I mean, yeah, you want to have that in place, but I don't know that anybody expected such a huge turnout. Yeah.
But it's just I guess the lack of information is the issue. Became the issue is the crowd control. One of the other cons we had that we believe would have been good is if you had an itinerary posted there next to the expo center map. That way you knew where things were, when they were, how to get there. It would have been much easier for people to get around. There wouldn't have been so much trouble holding those lines.
Yeah, I'd say definitely want to have schedules blown up and put in strategic places where people can look up and say, oh, okay, so 2:30 there's a panel there, I can make it. As it was, I went to the information desk and I kind of just had to take a picture of the schedule and keep referring back to my phone, which you know, is fine, but I'd like to have that schedule up where I'm not having to stop and flip through that. I can kind of look at the map, like you said, putting it next to the floor map of the expo. That's a fantastic idea. Maybe even having a volunteer or somebody with the con there to kind of say as well, like, oh, you're here, you want to be over here, for anybody who's out of town and not familiar with the expo. And there were people you know, got there guiding and helping people out. But once that crowd really packed in, it seemed a bit chaotic. And I have to say, if I don't know your name, but there's one volunteer I got a little impatient with, and I was a little rude to. So if you happen to be watching this, I'm sorry if you recognize my face. I got a little short with you, and you had a really tough job to do. So I hope I wasn't part of the problem for a minute or two there. So yeah, I think one thing I would try to do, and again, I'm not any kind of organizer for these sort of events, and I don't know how all this works, but we have that exhibition hall right next to the dome where they do the livestock shows and all that kind of stuff.
Boat shows and gun shows and all those others.
Yeah, our friend Rick Smith has the boat show out there. There's so much room in there, and I think next year it might be cool to, I mean, just considering the huge crowd we got, and hopefully they made a profit off this thing with so many people being out there and all the work that Johnny put into it. They could have a little more maybe money and time and organization to rent out the exhibition hall, and maybe you can even put the celebs in there, and maybe a few of the artists as well. People can stand in line there, go through those big garage doors, you know, they're open, and that the crowd can be directed in there, then make it out onto the expo floor. My reasoning for being for that is you can have the merch on the expo floor, and you have all that seating for all the families who have already been in line with the celebs and have been walking around with the kids and everybody and the merch, and they can kind of stop and have a seat.
We can bring boats in there. Do you think you could bring the food trucks in there?
You probably could. That could be an idea too. Maybe get the food trucks into the expo hall so they're not out. That's a good idea. You're not out in the sun, and you kind of open up that space out there too for any other stuff you want to put outside. You could have events and photo ops out there too. But yeah, with the heat being a factor, I think moving that indoors would probably be, at least have the shade.
I would agree.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. So, yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of cons, just little nitpicky things. I feel like overall, this was a fantastic event for Central Texas. Like we've been saying, a first-year Comic-Con here in little old Belton, Texas. This was phenomenal, and we can't thank Johnny and all the volunteers and everybody who worked with him enough, and all the celebs who came out and gave their time to come out and make this a great family and fan-oriented event.
Indeed. I think we'll be expecting another one, hopefully.
Yeah.
With that turnout, and if any of these changes are thought about or even taken in, we should probably see even a better turnout next year. And hopefully more costumes, more vendors, and more celebrities.
Yeah, I think this thing can only grow, can only get better, and we are very much looking forward to Comic-Con, Bell County Comic-Con 2018. I think that'll be fantastic.
Indeed.